God punishes all those who proudly resist him. Quote, "My servants will sing out of the joy of their hearts, but you will cry out from anguish of heart and wail in brokenness of spirit." Isaiah 65:14. To us, broken things are despised as worthless, but God can take what has been broken and remake it into something better, something that he can use for his glory. Broken things and broken people are the result of sin. Yet God has sent his Son, who was without sin, to be broken so that we might be healed. On the night before he died, Jesus broke the bread and said, "This is my body, which is broken for you." He went all the way to Calvary to die so that we could live. His death has made it possible for broken, sinful humanity to be reconciled to God and to be healed. Without the broken body of Jesus, we could not be made whole. Quotes, "But he was pierced for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was upon him, and by his wounds we are healed." Isaiah 53:5. Only when we surrender to Christ can we be restored and transformed. Such surrender requires a brokenness on our part. You could read that in Luke 9:23, Romans 6:1-14. It describes how believers become dead to sin and alive to God in Christ. Claim the promise that cannot be broken. Quotes, "In this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world." John 16:33. Quotes, "A righteous man may have many troubles, but the Lord delivers him from them all. He protects all his bones. Not one of them will be broken. The Lord redeems his servants. No one will be condemned who takes refuge in him." You could read that in Psalm 34:19-22. Jesus viewed all things in light of eternity, and so should we. Quotes, "Let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinful men, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart." Hebrews 12:2-3. God draws us. He calls us. He longs for us to come to him so that he can heal us. Often we are unable to hear his call because we are so busy with other things: our lives, our families, our work, our problems, and our unhappiness. Sometimes we must be broken before we realize our need. And our deepest need is to be reconciled to God. Only then can we be made whole. Matthew 5:5. The solution can never come from our own efforts or striving, but comes only from him. When we recognize our need for God, we are able to take our eyes off ourselves and focus them on God and Jesus Christ. Only when we stop thinking about ourselves and start thinking about what Jesus did for us can we begin to heal. Only when we admit our need and ask God into our lives can God begin to make us whole. Only when we confess that we are broken, God can make us into what he wants us to be. Once we let go of self and place God at the center of our lives, everything else falls into place. Matthew 6:33. During the final week of Jesus' life, he was eating a meal And, quotes, a woman came with an alabaster jar of very expensive perfume made of pure nard. She broke the jar and poured the perfume on his head. You could read that in Mark 14:3. The woman's action of breaking the alabaster jar was symbolic of a couple of things. Jesus would soon be broken on the cross, and all who followed him must be willing to be broken as well. But the results of such costly brokenness is beautiful indeed. Surrender to God and allow him to make you whole, to give your life meaning, purpose, and joy. Trust him. Quotes, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. Romans 8:28.